Is it time up for Prime Minister Rishi Sunak? Well, it's been a miserable weekend for him so far. First of all, Sadiq Khan won his third term as London Mayor yesterday afternoon.
It's Londoners who inspire me every day to continue our mission of building a fairer, safer and greener London. And in what I hope will be a year of great change, a future Labour government led by Keir Starmer working with us in City Hall will mean we can go much further and accomplish so much more.
Well, just a few hours later, the Conservative Andy Street lost the West Midlands mayoralty, which he'd been expected to retain, to Labour's Richard Parker by 1,508 votes.
Well, joining us now is the former Lib Dem MP, Mark Oaten. Really good to see you this morning. Mark, thank you so much for your company. What's your assessment of what we've seen over the weekend so far?
Good morning to you both. I think it's probably what all the three parties expected privately. The Labour Party would have expected to do as well as this. They would have underplayed it before these results came out. The Conservatives' worst nightmare was they'd lose half their seats. Well, they have done. And the Lib Dems would have hoped that they could make breakthroughs in the seats they're targeting at the next general election. And it looks like they have done. So probably it's exactly what we expected at this time. It would have been a shock, frankly, if the Conservatives could have done better than the polls predicted. And it would have been a shock also if Labour had underperformed. So it's broadly where I would have expected us to be this time out of a general election.
Yeah, but what's interesting, I think, because, look, we knew it was going to be bad for the Conservatives, and it has been. But I think it's whether there's been dealt a killer blow in all of this. And I reckon losing Andy Street might be, because it's such a shock.
I think that was the tipping point of disaster for them in many ways. That was the one hope they were going to hold on to. By all accounts, Street was a popular mayor. And if a popular Conservative gets defeated in these circumstances, that will send a shiver through many, many Conservative MPs up and down the country. Because a lot of them will think, look, I do a good job locally, people like me. I hope I've got some personal votes. What the Street result shows is that a personal vote just ain't going to save you in this political climate. There'll be a lot of Tory MPs waking up very concerned this morning.
I mean, does that result with Andy Street suggest that the challenge facing the Conservative Party is even greater than first thought?
I think it probably does. I don't know if I was a Conservative Party strategist what I do next, bluntly. And that's always frightening, because in these circumstances, you could think, well, I could maybe change a policy, throw the electorate some tax cuts. Well, they've tried that. That hasn't worked. They might think, well, let's throw in a new leader. Well, I think they've done that 3 or 4 times now. That hasn't worked. And there bluntly just comes an inevitability in the electoral cycle where everything you try and do is not hitting home. And I think the Conservatives have bluntly got to that point now. Their best strategy will be to minimise the losses when it comes to the general election.
Is the Labour Party offering anything, apart from not being Conservatives?
I think that's what Starmer has done very cleverly. He's not offered much. And in doing so, he shut down the opportunity for attack on policies. Now, I can remember back when I won my seat in 1997 for the Lib Dems, there was huge enthusiasm about Tony Blair. People really wanted that change. What I don't see with Starmer and Labour is that kind of enthusiasm. So the conclusion I think we draw is that, look, they're best placed to get rid of this unpopular Conservative Party, but there's no massive enthusiasm for Labour either. But I think Starmer will be happy for that. He's a safe player, and he'll say to his party, look, I've kept it calm, I've kept it quiet, I've not exposed us to new policies. Steady as she goes, and he seems cautious, but that cautious approach at the moment seems to be paying off.
Mark, as you were just describing, it's difficult to see how the Tories are going to move forward from this as a party. Do you think the results over the weekend may have changed the timing in Rishi Sunak's mind of when he might call a general election? There's been talk, hasn't there, about October, November and going as long as possible. Do you think he may now call an early general election and, as you say, focus now on minimising the losses?
Absolutely not, is my view. I mean, when you're going to get wiped out, why call an election? It's the classic turkey voting for an early Christmas. His best hope and it's his only hope, is that interest rates eventually start to fall, that the inflation comes down, and he can have a narrative with the public which says, look, it's been really tough, it's been bad, we've seen you through COVID, we've seen you through Ukraine, but look, the signs are here, the economy is recovering. I think that's his best hope. The problem is that the interest rates aren't coming down, and so he'll want to play it long in the hope that by, I believe, something like mid-November, the Bank of England will have cut those interest rates. The economy might be looking stronger. And to do that, he needs time. So I believe he'll go as long as he possibly can.
All right. So we've got a lot to wait for in all of this. Seeing as you were a Lib Dem, can I ask you about what the Lib Dems are doing at the moment? I just don't know if it's falling on deaf ears, really. They're doing a lot of... Ed Davey's doing a lot of stunts. Are they paying off or not?
Well, I think the results from the local elections would satisfy Ed Davey. I think the party would say they are doing enough. I mean, look, if you look at those results, they've actually come second ahead of the Conservatives in the seats won. And that's a pretty remarkable effort. But what you're not going to see from the Lib Dems is this big national campaign. Mm-hmm. They're much more focused. They have their eyes on maybe 40, 50, 60 seats at the general election, and they are going to be absolutely targeting those, putting resources, money, stuffing leaflets through people's doors in those individual seats. So it might not actually have an impact on the global national radar, but all they care about is winning those particular target seats. And they would say the results the other night show they're on target to do that.
But in terms of national, I mean, in local politics, Lib Dems have always been strong. I wonder if in national politics they're focusing on a small number of seats. One of the predictions I saw based on the local results said, well, they may get an additional 8 seats and 10 to 38 or whatever the number is. I mean, they're basically acknowledging, aren't they, that they will be nothing more than a protest party, a protest vote.
And some, like me, would argue that maybe the party needs to be a little bit more ambitious and to argue for stronger things nationally about what they can achieve. But they were very, very concerned by what happened when one of their previous leaders, Joe Swinson, said, my name's Joe Swinson, I'm going to be Prime Minister. And it was ridiculed. So I think they're very cautious about making grand claims. Personally, I think they're heading for maybe 50, 60, 70 seats. They would never say that publicly. But if you look at the individual results from constituencies up and down the country where the Lib Dems are second, locally, people know that if they want to get rid of the Tories, they vote for the party who's in second place. And in many seats, that is the Lib Dems. So I think quietly behind the scenes, they'll be confident they can have quite a big breakthrough at the next election. Is it exciting? Is it hitting the headlines? No, it's not. Will it be effective come the general election? Probably yes.
Oh, interesting. Mark Oaten, really good to see you. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you. Lots of you getting in touch this morning. John Andrews, morning to you. Says, morning you two. Today the Tories need to be held to the fire. No more pretending they still have a chance at the next election. They lost the mayor in the West Midlands, Andy Street. That's shown the Tories everything. They will now lose the red wall. We need to be realistic. He says many Tory voters will now move over to Reform if Nigel comes out of retirement.
That's the big if.
That's the big if.
I mean, heck, he's just not saying anything at the moment, is there?
Yeah, I think he'll leave it as long as he can, I think.